Before you became a police officer, did you ever think that you would become a IPS officer or it just happened?
Definitely not. In the school, I was a pretty normal, average student, neither too bright nor too stupid. I have always been a sportsman, and that is I can say it's my primary identity.
As a police officer, you would have dealt with criminals, with people of whatever.
But generally speaking, people are not that bad. Sometimes they do bad things. There is a world of difference between the two approaches. If we label the people as good and bad, then we don't encounter the possibility of reform.
And I'm sure Odisha and its present reforms, because of you and your team, of course, is going to change the mindsets of a lot of people, and it's already happening.
In any reform program, we are not able to enroll everyone. We started the community radio, FM radio in the jail. So he hears the story of the other person, he feels, yes, मेरे से भी ज़्यादा बदनसीब कोई और है.
Welcome to another edition of mycitylinks, Our Change Leaders. The journey of our change leaders has been a very exciting one. We have got some wonderful people coming onto the show, sharing their experiences, and it's been quite inspirational to our audience. We got a wonderful feedback from them, and it's been more of a learning experience, and sometimes it has also been entertaining. For this edition of Our Change Leaders, we have got a person who wears many hats actually. He is a cricketer, adventure enthusiast, a scholar. In fact, he has done his PhD, and most importantly, he is a IPS officer and of a very high rank. And today in mycitylinks, Our Change Leaders, we welcome Mr. Manoj Chhabra. Welcome, Manoj bhai. It's been a pleasant journey with you. You've been a mentor, a friend, a philosopher, a guide, and we'll come back to philosophy again. But we would like to know more about the journey which you had before you became a police officer.
Thank you so much, Sanu bhai, for your kind words about me. I don't know whether I deserve half of them. The journey has been a very tumultuous journey, lots of ups and downs. I believe everybody goes through it, so it's nothing extraordinary for me. I have been lucky in certain aspects, so the journey has been by and large good with some patches, so we can explore it as we go forward.
Yeah. So I know your passion has been sports, and adventure, of course, is something which you still do now. You go on trekkings, and I mean, you go for wildlife trips, and you've been an enthusiast for long. But before you became a police officer, did you ever think that you would become a IPS officer, or it just happened as you went along with your career?
Definitely not. Civil services was something I hadn't even heard about. I come from a small town, Amritsar, not so small actually, it's a nice place, but as in my childhood we never thought about a career as such. I belong to a business family. We were neither rich nor poor, so we were a kind of average middle class family, and I was a very happy-go-lucky kind of child. During my school days and in my childhood, my overwhelming passion was sports. So that is something which comes naturally to me. So I was always interested in sports of all kinds. So I did professionally well as a cricketer, of course. That is, of course, my first love. But I used to play like other children in the school and in my colony. We used to play all the sports, whichever is the flavor of the day. If it was rainy season, we couldn't play cricket, we started playing football. Or if it became too muddy, we started playing volleyball. Or any game, football, volleyball, badminton, table tennis. In fact, I represented my school and college in table tennis, as well as badminton, as well as football. So I was like trying my hand on all sports. But cricket came more naturally to me. So that is the game I picked up a little more seriously. And later on in my service career, I played a lot of tennis also. Now I'm trying to pick up golf, but hopefully after my retirement I'll be able to devote a little more
time, because golf I think needs a little more time and more of consistency to improve.
Probably will take a lot more time for me to sort of devote to golf once I pack my bags and hang my boots. So let's see how it goes.
So about coming back to your, we know your subject was philosophy, and we'll again come back to the fact that philosophy and the police have some connection, which you have now realized in your present posting. So when you took up philosophy, and maybe I think you also took philosophy as a subject in your civil services examinations. So did you ever think that when you got into the IPS, you were fitting into the right kind of career, or you just took it in your stride?
Actually, philosophy has been a kind of, you can say a leading light or a guiding light for me throughout my career, even as a cop. I was naturally interested in the subject. Once I picked it up in the college, I got attracted to it, and I did reasonably well. So before I came to civil services, I was actually teaching philosophy in the college, and interestingly, it was the same college I had studied in. So I got offered a post, and what was more funny was some of my students were my friends. So in the day I was teaching them, in the evening we were playing cricket together or gossiping together. So that was quite a...
This was in Amritsar.
Sir, I belong to DAV College, Amritsar, which is got a very good sporting sort of pedigree. Mohinder Mannath, Surinder Mannath, all these people were alumni of this college. So we picked up our sporting history from there. But philosophy has been kind of, my way out in times of distress or times of confusion or dilemmas. So I have always held a kind of, one can say, a philosophical viewpoint about life. So which has actually helped me cope up with a lot of situations in life. I believe a philosophical point of view or philosophical temperament keeps you stable.
On steady ground.
Yes, so you are neither too sort of happy or overjoyed in the moment of happiness, or too much depressed in a moment of trouble. So as Rudyard Kipling has said, that once you learn to sort of treat the two imposters of victory and defeat as the same. So that has been a kind of natural way of looking at world. So ups and downs come and go, but you keep an even temperament.
Amazing athlete. I won't say a fitness freak, but you look after your health and this background of philosophy, your education, this balance. How has it helped you in your career as a police officer, since you moved around the length and breadth of Odisha and taken up a lot of jobs? I mean, from the grassroots to as a leader.
So actually, some people may find it funny, but I actually find it as a very natural fit for me. Philosophy was my favorite subject in the college, but it does not mean that I had to be a very serious kind of or academic person. I was anything but a serious or academic person. In the school, I was a pretty normal, average student, neither too bright nor too stupid. Sports came naturally to me, that I can say. But I also had a kind of reflective bent of mind. So both are not mutually exclusive. So I don't find it anything odd in this, that I can be a philosophical bent of mind kind of person, as well as a person who is physically active. And in the policing, actually, I feel that it is actually requires both sides of the personality. Physical, yes, you have to be physically fit and you have to enjoy physical activity to be a good policeman. But at the same time, policing nowadays, especially, also requires reflection, thinking, and some kind of self-evaluation or self-awareness. So, in that sense, I have found that it has helped the both sides of my personality, the physical side as well as the academic side, has helped. Although academically, I was never too much inclined academically in the beginning. I have always been a sportsman, and that is I can say it's my primary identity. I still identify myself as a sportsman before anything else. But academic side I actually developed later on in my career, especially when I went to Border Security Force on deputation. There I actually was posted on the border areas in Rajasthan. I found that there was a very serious problem of stress amongst the Jawans, and many cases of suicide or homicides were happening. So, being a little philosophical bent of mind kind of person, I started thinking about how to understand the problem first. And that led me to do some kind of research. So I did my MPhil in stress management and the linkage of emotional intelligence, the concepts of emotional intelligence with that. So that was my thesis, and in fact it was the first study in India about the police forces which involved empirical data collection and evaluation of stress in any serious way. And also concept of emotional intelligence is something which is more used in management and corporate paradigm. But this study linked it with policing also. And actually that became its unique selling proposition or USP. I actually published a paper which got the best paper award in USA because they found it very interesting that the competencies of emotional intelligence were being linked to policing and stress management. So that gave me a lot of professional satisfaction as well as understanding how to deal with stress. Then this academic success led me to further explore my academic side, and as a God-sent opportunity, since I was in Delhi, I could get admission in IIT Delhi to do my PhD. There I chose radicalization of youth as a subject because it was very relevant for the policing side also, and it also satisfied my academic curiosity and reflective side. So that itself was quite a journey. It took me 7 years to complete my PhD. It was very difficult to do it while being in service. But I must credit my better half, my wife, who helped me a lot in that study. She herself is a psychologist and a professor of management. So with her constant support and lot of pushing from her side, I was able to do my PhD. But in the same time, I have kept my physical side active all through. So I still have interest in sports. I play wherever and whenever I can. As well as I like to read and do academic work also. As you have already mentioned, I have a lot of interest in adventure sports. And one particular area or one particular event I would like to probably share with your audience. I was given an opportunity by Government of India to go to Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, which is in Tibet, China. So I was selected as a liaison officer and I had 50 pilgrims under me. So it was, from my perspective, it was more an adventure and a trek. But from their perspective is the religious journey. So it was an amalgamation of both. And this is a trek which is a certified high altitude trek. You go up to 20,000 feet in a very, very arduous circumstances. And it took 28 days of trekking to complete.
And acclimatization.
Acclimatization along the way. Because when you are walking, you naturally get acclimatized. Right. The problem of acclimatization or lack of acclimatization happens only when you either fly or travel by vehicle. so that
You suddenly reach a place.
you just suddenly gain altitude in a few hours. But if you are walking, so it's a natural acclimatization. But having said that, even then it was quite a tough journey, because many people have actually lost their lives during the journeys. So we were lucky in my batch that I was able to bring all the 50 yatris.
That itself is a responsibility of taking.
It was a big
Looking after yourself and also.
In fact, that was one of the toughest challenge of my life, because being a police officer, you are used to some sort of discipline amongst your staff.
We have subordinates, we have a hierarchy.
But here I was alone as a leader. But those yatris are not policemen or police officers. They are grown-up people, ladies, people who are at maybe age senior to me also. And there is also a phenomena that as you go on higher altitudes, it also leads to lack of I would say, maybe sir. So it actually leads to short-temperedness in certain times, because lack of oxygen leads to, there are some kind of situations where your behaviors become erratic.
Hallucination
Happen. There is something called HAPO, high altitude pulmonary edema, which happens because of lack of oxygen at higher altitudes, and it can sometimes become so serious that a person can die within hours. And other symptoms are aggressive behavior, sudden flashes of temper, and eccentric kind of behavior. So actually in those situations, people who were fully grown up adults, sometime due to some small issue, used to start quarreling or fighting. So, and as a leader, one has to step in and ensure that no untoward incident takes place, because in those areas there was no medical support, there was no infrastructure, it was just a high altitude desert. It was probably the most beautiful experience of my life. The terrain I have seen in Tibet, near the Kailash and Mansarovar Yatra, I haven't seen that kind of terrain in the world. It's almost like a kind of moonscape. And the experience of leading yatris through that journey was quite a learning experience for me. It helped me grow as a human being also. So this is one experience which is very close to my heart.
I think leadership begins with your own individual personality. I mean, as you're in a career, like you have systems ready. Obviously, you have to work with the systems or within the system. But these are real-time experiences which make you as a person you grow also, which I think when you come back again to your work, it also helps you. So I think it would be great advice for the young people who are getting into careers that adventure sports, fitness can always be a great support system for whatever you are doing as in your career. So focusing on your career is important. Like Mr. Chhabra says, that balance of your education, your reading, your career and sports and fitness is very, very important, because otherwise you're not a complete person, and it helps you as you go along. So I guess you have been posted in different districts in Odisha as you came along. Was it a sort of a culture shock when you came in, new to the IPS in a new state, and how did you manage with that? Did philosophy help? Did your background as a sports person help?
Both helped actually, definitely both helped. Coming to Odisha was somewhat of a kind of different experience. I won't say a cultural shock, but it was quite different from the background. I come from Punjab. But before coming here, already we had come to know which place or which cadre we are going. And other batchmates who were along with me in the academy, who were belonging to Odisha cadre, so they had already become friends.
So you got a feel of the place already.
I was having a lot of support system. So when I came here, so it was a kind of, soft landing. Obviously language was an issue, but Odia language is something which is not very difficult to learn. I think within next first 15-20 days of my joining here, we were able to sort of workably speak conversation and understand the language. Writing part took a little more time. The reading and conversing was never a problem. So it was quite a different kind of experience policing wise actually, because in Punjab the kind of policing we had seen from the outside, not being a policeman but as a kind of receiver sometime of the police attention. So we have had our some attention from the police during our student days also. So that culture of Punjab policing style is not there in Odisha, and I would say this is a positive in a positive sense. So here the policing is more interactive, it is more inclusive. So we adapted to this system, and the policing in Odisha going to different areas and different districts. In fact, I have probably served in most of the districts of Odisha in one capacity or other. So the remote areas, so-called remote areas of Odisha, the coastal areas, the western Odisha, the southern Odisha, the central belt, I have had opportunity to work everywhere, and it has been by and large a very kind of satisfactory and learning experience for me to work in these areas.
So coming from Punjab and Amritsar and Odisha, when you're discussing about culture, what would you think are the cultural nuances which are similar, which you think is like something is similar, and what do you think is radically little different?
Actually, there is not that much of difference in a sense. One would, on the surface of it, find a lot of differences. But if you stay for a little while, people are basically the same. The people in the rural areas of Odisha and the people in the rural areas of Punjab, their mindsets, their kind of behavior, I don't really find it really difficult or different from this thing. I adjusted pretty well into Odisha, the culture wise. Yes, the food is different, and over a period of time, my food habits have become more from Odisha. And in fact, I used to find it very funny sometime in an earlier period when we used to go from Odisha back home for vacations. So unconsciously, whenever I used to talk on phone or talking to the rickshaw guy, I was talking in Odia. And that Punjabi guy will actually look at me in a very ironic way, ki kya bol rahe ho? So the speaking in Odia became a second nature. So that way I don't really find that it was such a cultural shock. Yes, food habits were a little different, and you take a little bit time to adjust. But now, in fact, if you see my food habits and in fact the food habit of my children, they are more Odia than Punjabi.
So what kind of food do you really like? I mean, from the Odia cuisine or whatever?
In fact, I am now become more of a rice eater than a roti eater. So rice is now my preferred diet. So normal diet also, I have the chuda, the upma, the idli, the dalma, etc. Yeah, I find it very tasty and very healthy. And in fact, my daughter used to call like the chicken cooked here is called Udiya chicken. So she has named it Udiya chicken. So whenever even now she comes home, so her first demand is that I want to have Udiya chicken. Now she is staying in Delhi and she has stayed abroad, but I think she misses Udiya chicken the most.
That's interesting because a lot of Odias have a fixation for butter chicken. I mean, that's a typical North Indian food.
But she has grown up here. She has grown up in the most interior parts of Odisha.
This is typical home cooked.
Typical home cooked food, and she misses it. So whenever she comes, so she wants that food to have.
Those spices, it's totally different from that. And you got a taste for it, you miss it wherever you go. Now in these days of adventure sports, because some young people, old people also take a lot of pleasure, especially during COVID. People have gone to social media and seen a lot of people trekking or doing a lot of adventure which they would not do otherwise. But that has inspired a whole generation of people. I think after COVID, people are wanting to go out and do things. I do a show called Explore Odisha, where people have asked that you go out. Is there a situation for trekking? I have personally realized in Odisha it's a little bit difficult because the wildlife around, like elephants, so it may not be very safe as it is in maybe Himachal or Kashmir or wherever. So other than the safety and the precautions, what would you think? Because I personally have faced, like 6-7 years back, I had thought that I would walk 5 to 6 kilometers a day and I was quite fit. But I had a shock or a surprise when I tried to trek and almost reach 14,000 feet on a mountain in Manali, near Manali. And then I realized, like we were discussing, I had hallucinations, stuff like that. So it's not always that you are fit, but it's a fitness of a different kind. You may be going to the gym and you may be doing all kinds of stuff, but adventure sports or trekking is a literally different ball game.
Yes.
So how would you advise through your experiences? I mean, you have done it all, and I'm sure you would have also faced your own personal challenges, and you've seen people who are accompanying you also facing it. So how would you advise to prepare? And if physical is important, but mental also is an important thing.
Actually, I would say mental part is even more important than the physical part, because mind affects the body to a large extent. See, body is like a machine, but it is a kind of machine which grows and evolves the more you put it through the strain. So I have actually seen it for myself also. I have been interested in sports and adventures of all kind, but nobody is born with the ability. Everybody grows into it. So if you are interested, you will start, but naturally you are not adapted to it initially. So the body acclimatizes slowly. The way to go is basically not to either overdo it in over enthusiasm, especially in high altitude kind of situations, or other adventure sports, because there is an inherent risk in all the adventure sports.
Right.
So one has to have a balance of thrill seeking as well as safety. So because if you try to overdo it or you are over enthusiastic in something, then the results can be very drastic actually.
You can't rush it.
You can't rush it, and if you do, then probably there is no escape. I have done skydiving. So there, before doing that, you have to double check, triple check it 5 times, because then there is no coming back from there. If your parachute doesn't open, then you straight drop down at the speed of 9.2, whatever the acceleration to gravity, 9.2 kilometers per meter per second kind of thing. You sort of land on the earth like a dead stone. So the precaution is very important. Similarly, in high altitude trekking and all, you have to go slowly but steadily. Either rushing it or some kind of mental block that I can't do it. Both are dangerous. So a balance has to be maintained, and with equanimity, with steadfastness, one can easily do these things which at one time appear impossible. I can actually tell you from my experience that I have now done marathons. I used to run, now I have stopped doing it. But I used to run the marathon. But running 42 kilometers, nobody can do it in like one day you get up and say, I will do a marathon. You can't do it. Maybe you can run 2 kilometers on a first day or 3 kilometers, and then you will tire out totally. But if you keep on doing it, next day it may become 4, next week it may become 5, 7. So over a period of time, you develop your lung capacity, your muscle capacity, your endurance. All these things come up with practice and kind of sustained effort.
And confidence also comes.
Yes, and then the confidence also comes. Initially, I remember when I did my first half marathon, there were many people who quit halfway or after few kilometers and all. But if you have done it over a period of time, first time when I started running, I was probably not able to run more than 1 or 2 kilometers. But over a period of time, increased it to 5, 10, 15, 20. Then finally I was able to do the marathon. But it's not like that you can do it in one day. Similarly, we went to this trek called Chadar Trek, which is a very unique trek which happens in winter only, because you are walking on the ice, walking on the ice and the frozen river, so to speak. And that has its own kind of challenges. There you can't go, the surface is flat, but you can't rush it or you can't go with high speed, because then it can be very dangerous, because the ice can break. So every activity.
So are people tied together in those?
No, not necessarily. That happens in mountaineering more than trekking. Trekking doesn't take this much thing. So there are multiple kind of activities like rafting. I've done rafting, skydiving, of course I told, trekking. Then there are other kind of running, marathon, etc. Each has its own challenge. But the common factor is that self-belief is something, if you have that, you can achieve that what appears at beginning to be an impossible thing.
Right.
I am reminded of a quote by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He used to be actually a very weak boy in the school. So he quotes in his autobiography that he was probably the weakest boy in the school and he was bullied. That actually led him to develop his muscles. He did it as a kind of countering the bullying experience. And he quotes there, the word which he says are very actually apt. He says that if you put a load of 5 horsepower on a 1 horsepower machine, the machine will probably burn. But human body is such a machine that if it is 1 horsepower today, you put it the load of 5 horsepower, it will become a 5 horsepower machine. And if the next day it can become 10 horsepower. So the human body can
adapt
and evolve. The more strain you put on it, to a certain limit, of course there are limits, beyond that it will break. But we as human beings normally don't even end up using even 5% capacities of our either the physical abilities and even the mental abilities. So we are capable of far more things than we actually believe that we can do. So slowly extending and exploring those things can lead to a lot of self-growth, and then the satisfaction that comes with that feeling that something which you thought was impossible and you have done it, I think there is no feeling to beat it.
So you would advise, I mean, people if they go through these kind of maybe mountaineering or trekking or running, in fact, cycling has become a huge fitness kind of thing, and it's also good for the social community stuff. I mean, cycling, at least in Odisha, was not taken as a sport, and so I think you would say that getting into adventure sports or fitness, endurance fitness also helps you in life.
Yes, it actually is a life lesson. It actually makes you believe that if you can do things which you thought were impossible in one field, then there is no reason to say that I cannot do the other things. It can be either learning some new skills, or developing a new hobby, or solving a problem which you thought was beyond yourself. So success in one field will actually have a benefit in other areas of this. So I have had this experience myself in my life, that there are many a times the problem which confronts you, you really feel totally at sea, and you feel how the hell I am going to solve this problem, and I am not able to, this problem is beyond me. But then the experiences of those days when I used to run the marathon and doing the trekking and all those things, then I recall that okay, I was initially not very comfortable. I was thinking I can't do it. But then slowly, with kind of practice and steadfastness and equanimity, and never giving up that thing. So you slowly and slowly find your way around the problem, and end up solving most of the problem. Of course, nothing works every time. Sometimes the problems are beyond your scope, but you will never know unless you actually give it a try. So giving up, actually the biggest failure is not
Trying or
losing or not being able to do. The biggest failure is not even trying. So that's what the sports and the adventure part, and also the philosophy part of my life has taught me, that you have to see the things in that perspective.
So, coming to your present position as in your career, I think you've been a philosophy student, and you've done your PhD also in subjects which are connected with human behavior, and I think that would have helped what you're doing. And I think you're doing a great job in changing the mindset as a change leader. I'm not sure whether you had really realized that this position will give you that kind of platform to really make a change. As a police officer, you would have dealt with criminals, with people of whatever, convicts or under trials in a different way. But when you became the Director General of Prisons and Corrective Services, this would have been a different dimension altogether to the Police Connect. And you have done some amazing reforms, and I would like to tell our audience and our viewers that Sir has started something called the radio stations, community radio stations inside the prisons, which in his words we would want to know how it came about and what difference it has made. It's so amazing. I have been into FM radio, been a radio jockey myself, and radio has a big connect, but getting it to a prison and working with prisoners, how has this journey of working as the head of the prison facilities in Odisha and corrective services, when you just joined, how were you thinking about it? And as you are at the helm of affairs, how do you think, and I'm sure Odisha and its prison reforms, because of you and your team, of course, and the people who have been in the prisons, is going to change the mindsets of a lot of people, and it's already happening. So your small journey which you have been doing for the last 1 or 2 years, we'd like to know about it, and it's an inspiring thing, I know.
Yeah, Sanu, actually I can't explain it in words actually what this journey has been. See, I have been a police officer now for 35 years. I'm just going to hang my boots in a few months' time. In this period, I have had exposure to almost all the things which the policemen do. Working in the district as SP, then working in the headquarters area, worked in Bureau of Police Research, which had more of a academic work. But nothing actually prepared me for the experience I've had in prisons. Let me explain it in a minute. See, as a police officer also, we are connected to the prison department. But most of us have had no practical experience of what goes on in the prisons inside. You see, normally our idea of prison also is like a layman's idea of prison. And what is that idea? If we see, what does a common person think about when he hears the term prison? The image which comes to mind is basically because of what we have seen in the movies or may have read in the reports. Both the Hollywood movie and the Bollywood movies present prison in a very, very drastic kind of hellhole kind of situation. In the Hollywood movies, it is more like a steel cage kind of thing, detention centers. In Bollywood movies or Hindi movies, we see sometimes the prison shown in a way like it is a torture place or it's a dark kind of place where all kind of activities go on. But if you actually see the prison from the inside, which you have also seen, it actually doesn't conform to any of those images. The image which or the parable which is closest to it, the description which is more apt is more like a boys' hostel. most of the prisons. So the public perception of prison is very different from the reality. And this I also realized when I joined the prisons. And during this period of almost about 1 year, few months, I have been able to initiate some reforms in the prison area, which has probably given me the most satisfaction in my career. It is because the prisons are a very closed system. They are like a laboratory. You can do the experiment there with the controlled environment. Whereas if you try to implement some reform measures in the police, there are number of variables there. The reform comes slowly. But in the prisons, since it is a controlled environment,
you can see the results.
The results are very, very quickly sort of seen in the area. So having this kind of scenario, and I knew I had limited time at my disposal. So we decided along with my staff that we would like to implement some reform programs. Because as you know, my full description is Director General of Prisons and Correctional Activities. The second part actually is very important and is often ignored. Because we are doing always the firefighting and we never get around to doing serious reform business. See, from my philosophical side or reflective side, it has been my belief that it's not that people are bad generally. There may be some people who are bad, but generally speaking, people are not that bad. Sometimes they do bad things. So there is a world of difference between the two approaches. If we label the people as good and bad, then we don't encounter the possibility of reform. But if we think of it as a person who is basically not a bad person, but because of some circumstances he has done some bad things, then there is always a possibility of bringing him back and reforming him. So my belief has been that people are not bad, they do bad things sometimes. So once they do bad things, they are supposed to be punished. But then, since they are basically not a bad person, we can always reform them. And my guiding philosophy in the prison has been that I want that anybody who has come to prison to get out of the prison as a better person than when he first came in. So with this idea in mind, we embarked on a series of activities which number one is giving them some kind of opportunity for self-expression or releasing their emotions, because in prison all they have is a lot of time, a time for reflection. Most of the people who come to prison, they keep on reflecting on their behavior, their life. Sometimes they say, I am unlucky. Sometimes he says, I am a bad person.
Not sure about the future.
Not sure about the future, feeling like rejects in the society. Sometimes their own families reject them. So they are, by and large, very low on self-esteem and self-confidence. And they are bottled up. They keep thinking about things. So our first aim was to give them opportunity for releasing their feelings, giving them some kind of activities which are cathartic in nature. So we started with some activities like art activities like drama, dance, music, painting, poetry. All these activities which give them some kind of release in their feelings. They can express their feelings. So once they are able to do that, they become lighter. So they don't encounter that much negative thought. So they start feeling that yes, I have some self-worth left in me. Some people discover in their art that they have some skills. Because there are people I know who have learned painting, they had never held a paintbrush before. They were totally illiterate, maybe from a rural background, never thought about himself as a painter. But now he can actually paint because it's an inborn skill. Some people,
self-expression.
yes, some people learn some instrument of music. Some people are writing poetry. Some people are doing drama or theater. Some people are dancing. So this is the activity which gives them some kind of release. Then comes the next step. We also want them when they go out of the jail so that they can earn a living. One of the major reasons why a person commits a crime is economic reasons. He cannot earn his living. So he is very easily attracted toward a life of crime. And especially once he has gone into the jail and become a criminal, then he actually expects that everybody expects him to be a criminal. So he sometimes starts believing in it himself. So we have tried teaching them some kind of employment skills so that it is not his default option to go out and commit crime. He can learn something and earn his living. So in that area, we started a number of programs which sort of aim at generating self-employment. Because let's sort of face it, there is a lot of stigma in the society with the prisoner. He is not likely to get a job with any company or any organization. It is better to teach him skills which lead to self-employment. So keeping that in mind, we started some courses. Number one was beauty parlor or barber training. So it was actually required in the jail also, because in jail also they require hair salons or this thing, and we are not having any barbers in our sort of position. So they can actually service the jail inmate themselves. Many of them learned. So we got in touch with the Skill Development Corporation, and with their support, the leading chain of Bhubaneswar, they are now teaching them the male as well as the female inmates the training in beauty salon and beauty parlor activity, like the pedicure, manicure, facials, etc. It has actually led to a tremendous amount of self-belief, especially in the women inmates. Almost every woman inmate wants to enroll in the beauty parlor because they can first of all take care of themselves, then they learn how to take care of others.
And it's good for the self-esteem also.
So it's very good for their self-esteem, and also they know, they have now in their knowledge that I have this skill, I can earn my living. And some of the prisoners have actually gone out and started their saloons. Secondly, we tried to also teach them in healthcare, the paramedics, because there is a great demand of paramedics in the society as well as in the jail itself. We are short-staffed, so we taught those prisoners some kind of basic paramedic training. And this has also been done with the help of an outside organization. Apart from them, as you mentioned earlier, we started the community radio, FM radio in the jail. Actually, it has been one of the biggest hits of our reform program. I never expected it to go so well. I only thought that it will provide some kind of release and entertainment and information to the jail, the prisoners, and also a kind of opportunity for the jail staff to pass on instructions on a common platform. But actually speaking, it has gone beyond that. Because what the jail prisoners have done, because many of them are very creative people. We cannot actually attach creativity with any kind of formal education or non-formal. Many of these people are very creative themselves. So they have now started in Bhubaneswar jail, for example. They have this hourly program from 6 in the morning till 5 in the evening. Every hour, the radio jockeys who have been trained, there are about 20 of them who are now very much like a professional radio jockey, and they are doing their programs. So they come up with these programs, the design of the program, the content of the program themselves. So they are designing beautiful programs. It's not only playing some farmaishi geet or songs or anything. There is a lot of information also and some songs also, but they have started, for example, in Bhubaneswar jail, every day one Qaidi will come and tell his life story. So it resonates with a lot of other prisoners. He tells actually under what circumstances he did what he did and what is his experience and what he feels now. So the other prisoners, the biggest advantage of this is that in any reform program, we are not able to enroll everyone. Let's say the beauty parlor or the dance or the music and other activities, there are people who are interested who come, but a large amount of people just stay away because they are not feeling confident enough, and we cannot force them to come. But this radio jockey, this FM radio, this broadcast, it goes to the every prisoner. So even if he's sitting in his barrack or the ward, he listens to it. It affects him. So the reach of this kind of experience storytelling, the person comes with his emotional story. So the person doesn't feel that I am only unlucky person, or my story is the worst story and I have been hard done by the society. So he hears the story of the other person, he feels, yes, मेरे से भी ज़्यादा बदनसीब कोई और है. Yeah, he is also in same boat as me. So that gives him a little bit of emotional support. That yes, he is also there. He is having the same feeling as me. We will together. There is a sense of brotherhood or something. So that way, community radio has actually become a kind of cathartic experience or an emotional bridge builder. That is why I have already decided now that we will be extending this community radio to next about 10 big prisons in Odisha, and subsequently maybe to all the prisons wherever it can be done. So these have been some of the leading programs. Apart from that, we are also trying to teach them, let's say, working with their hands, pottery, horticulture activity, pisciculture activity, because most of these people are not very literate and they are also used to working with land because semi-rural background se aate hain. Everybody has worked in the fields.
A bit of training always.
So yes, so we have planted beautiful cactus plants in our jail. In fact, those cactus plants, we got it from the Regional Plant Research Institute, and those plants we have got there, they can actually be potted and sold for hundreds of rupees in the market. So now we are exploring the possibility that these can be very profitable businesses. Already the pisciculture, the pisciculture activity in one jail is earning us more than 1 lakh per month. And horticulture activity is also going on. So in a sense, we are trying to teach them new age skills. Because always in the prisons, there were always some kind of factories. They were making dari, they were making mustard oil, they were making besan. All these activities were already there. But now with changing time and the prison profile, that most of the prisoners are below the age of 40. So these young people are not really interested in making a dari or a shirt or something.
They're looking at a career beyond.
Something which is interesting them. We are teaching them mobile repair, computer this thing, even photography as a skill, even dance, background dancing as a skill, poetry, English speaking. One of the course which is highest in demand is people want to learn English. Many of them want to learn English. So we have hired people who will teach them English. So all these activities we are trying to sort of instill confidence in them. They improve their self-esteem as well as providing them practical skills so that when they get released from jail, he is not only a better human being, but he is also a better skilled person.
And they have something to look forward to when they want to go out. It's not darkness here and darkness outside.
Yes. The hope is obviously everybody who we try to teach or do something, it may not be success in 100% cases. But even if we are able to do this thing and improve the skills levels as well as the humanity of the prisoner, maybe even in 50% cases,
that works.
That will work for the larger satisfaction of the society. After all, in society, we want them to become, valuable members, respected members of the society.
With contribution towards.
With contribution, they feel proud of themselves as human being, and society also doesn't look down on them.
And fortunately, they don't get back to their, if at all it was some criminal activity which has been part of that. So just literally out of the box, we realized that a lot of entertainment or on the creative fields, it often imitates real life. And you have now been a real-time witness to real-life stories. And this is what is now taken up in these new web series and stuff, maybe with a little bit of, or a lot of fiction attached.
Yeah, a lot of cinematic liberty.
A lot of cinematic liberty. So now these stories which you are hearing in the community radio or as a one-to-one, the prisoners are obviously getting to hear it, and it's a discussion format and it's inspirational, it's a bit of therapeutic. But would there be in any way that the larger media and with this whole reach, and social media has its own issues, but it has a lot of nice things about it, that these stories in a prison in Cuttack or Bhubaneswar or anywhere, it can go out to a larger audience and maybe be helpful to anybody anywhere. So if it can be formatted in, of course, in the right kind of jurisdiction with whatever ethics are around, these stories could be so interesting if it could be archived and put it on. So how would you think that could go on?
No, I don't see there is any problem in this area. The only thing which we have to be a little sort of cognizant about is that a person telling his story, he is telling from his own perspective. It is not necessarily the whole truth. It is the truth according to him. If you hear the other side, probably, you will probably then realize that there is, I won't say lies in the story, but every person tries to project himself as some kind of victim or a victim of bad luck or something like that. The stories have a advantage or a kind of use as a cathartic experience. He gets his feelings off his chest so that he starts feeling better. And the other prisoners probably also empathize with him a little more. They start seeing him as a human being rather than as a criminal or a monster or as a label. These can go out in the real world maybe as a collection of stories, but we cannot call them real time or true. We can't label them as true stories, or because we have no way or no reason or no way of actually sort of checking their veracity. It is their side of the story. But I don't see any problem unless there are like cases is going on where it can impact on ongoing investigation or an ongoing trial. But that will only happen if these are kind of published in a domain or something. But apart from that, we have had a lot of prisoners who are writing their own experiences in the form of poetry, for example, or in the form of a drama, or in the form of a story or a fictional story. That, of course, there is no problem if it goes as a poetry collection of a prisoner. If people are interested in listening to it or hearing it, that's...
Some of the greatest writers have written the works inside prison.
And actually prison brings out that, because you have all the time in the prison to reflect. So a lot of, wisdom comes through when you are in prison and you have time to think about your actions. So a lot of repentance, lot of emotions, lot of, regrets. That is evident in the poetry we have seen. And I don't really see that if there is any organization which wants to sort of collate their stories, we can actually help them to do it. I don't see there any problem in that.
So you had this amazing journey of experiences of so much, starting off life from Punjab, coming to Odisha, as a sports person, as an adventure sports enthusiast, obviously as a police officer, and as a scholar doing research and stuff like that. But this present experience, personally, I would like to ask, the kind of connection you had with, or you're having with prisoners, has it, that empathy, the kind of thing, we're really dealing with a lot of very, very difficult and sad stories. Has it given you sleepless nights sometimes, or has it really introspecting on society, on yourself, how we live along, has it changed you as a person?
Oh yes. But rather than giving me sleepless night, it has actually given me so much of hope. And the kind of stories you hear, sometimes they are sad. Of course, somebody is in prison, it's a sad situation, but there is a lot of resilience. If you go and actually meet many of these people, the way they are living and the way they are sort of adjusting to their life and looking forward, it's actually very sort of, it lifts the spirits. The kind of resilience you see, the kind of hope you see, and definitely every experience changes you for good or for worse. And I would definitely say this, luckily the last leg of my career has been very, very satisfying. I don't feel that, like, I can surely say that this has probably been one of the most satisfying periods of my professional career so far, and I feel so lucky that I was able to get that opportunity. And I only hope that we are able to institutionalize some of the reform programs or some of the systems we have set, so that they become automatic and lot many more prisoners benefit from them. Rather, I would say I am not doing anything for them. More than that, their experience, when I see them, I feel lifted myself. I think they are doing something for me more than I am doing something, because they are so, I would say, if I was in their place, I wouldn't be able to probably feel so hopeful and so resilient. So
That's a different mountain to climb.
yes, there is resilience is so good to see, that people in that kind of, you see, what can be worse than being a prisoner? Bad health, yes, of course, but this is one of the toughest and the most unluckiest.
Because bad health, at least you have your dear and near ones.
Yes, you are not with your family, you are living alone, you are in a confined space. So this is probably one of the worst situations in life you can be. But if you see, even there people have resilience, then you feel that how small and how insignificant your own problems are in life, where these people, despite all those situations, are able to laugh sometimes, crack jokes, they are able to feel hopeful, and you are million times better placed than them. So that is a very humbling and grounding experience, and it brings you back to earth with a jolt, that how small and how insignificant your own problems, which you think are very, very important, and like you are suffering from them. So this gives you a kind of reality check, that you should better realize how lucky and how happy your situation is as compared to them. And still they are feeling much better, they are able to laugh and smile, and why should you be crying at your small, insignificant problems? So it gives you a very good perspective in life. That's what I feel.
I mean, I started off this episode by saying that you have worn different hats, but I'll put it differently now. I think you've been wearing different footwear, from cricketing studs to trekking shoes to running shoes to, of course, police boots. And I personally would think, and an audience would, listening to your life's journey and your perspective and insights to life and career, you have a lot in you left. So I don't think it's just the first innings. Like a test match, you still have your second innings, I think, which you can contribute more. And thankfully, you have looked after your health, and you have a very, very long way to go. So how would you think post-retirement of the present career? And I'm sure there's an amazing career ahead of you also. How would you look at yourself going about contributing more to society or in your profession?
Sanu, it is very interesting that you use the cricket parable of second innings. So cricket being my first love, I can relate to this second inning concept. And of course, once retirement is fixed in the government service, so you willy-nilly think about it also, and also think about what to do after that. You see, I have my own way of looking at things. Everybody may not agree with me, but I feel that if you have basically three things sorted out in life, then this post-retirement period can be actually the golden period of your life. These three things are broadly: if your health is okay, secondly, if you have sufficient resources, I won't say you are very rich or something, but sufficient money to look after your basic need, the hygiene. And the third is if you have a good social and family life. If these three things are okay, then I think the life post-retirement can be something which is very enjoyable. You know, now I'll be retiring at 60. Now if you see, the life expectancy has grown up tremendously. At the time of independence, our life expectancy was about 32 years or something. Now it is 72. 72 is the overall life expectancy. But in our cohort, the people of middle class or in our kind of lifestyle, it is way beyond 80. So I could see that I have served now 35 years in police, but I can easily see myself spending another 30 years of life. So this is as good as another career.
Exactly.
So after retirement, it does not necessarily mean that you have to work in that sense that you get up every morning and go to office or do a 9 to 5 job. I feel a lot of people who feel that retirement ke baad there is like loss of purpose in life, or people feel sad, or people sort of commiserate with them, okay, that as if life has ended. These are the people who identify too much with their jobs only. Job is one part of my life. I have never looked at job as my whole life. And unfortunately, I have seen there are many people who become the job they do.
Mostly it happens with policemen also.
Policemen and in other fields also, but yes, in police, you start identifying so much with the job that when the job is not there, you feel a loss of identity. But luckily for me, I have never had that problem. I have always had interests beyond the job. My sports activities, my academic activities, my friend circle. Luckily, my family life has been like the wife and the children, they are like supported me very well, and they are all now very well settled in their lives. So I think of myself, the job is one aspect of my life. I don't identify myself with my job alone. I am not just a policeman. I am also a policeman, but I am much more than that.
Right.
So now, since this chapter will be over, or as you said, this innings is over, in the second innings, I have a lot of other interests to pursue. For example, I love traveling. One of my aims is to probably, if I can, it may sound like a pipe dream, but one of my wish list is, or a bucket list is, to see every country in the world. So I do want to travel, and probably I will not be able to see every country, but I would like to see as many as possible. I am a foodie, I like all kind of food. So I would like to maybe go everywhere and try the food there. Sometime I think of myself as becoming a food blogger or traveler, but I don't know whether I'll be able to do that, or I have the requisite skills to do that. But I do enjoy traveling, and I do enjoy food. I do enjoy my sports. I do enjoy academics. I have some professional qualification. I have done my PhD. So I don't see there is any dearth of activities for me to do. Only thing is, I have to take time out after my retirement and decide in what balance I want to do which activity.
Because there will be so many options.
Actually, I am spoiled for choices. So I will have to pick and choose and see how it goes. I am keeping an open mind what to do, but I am sure I'll love to do a lot of traveling. I would love to eat a lot of food of different cuisines, and I would love to talk to younger people. That actually gives me a lot, that helps me keeping myself fresh and my thought processes as, creative. When you talk to young minds and the people, let me say that the younger generation is far, far more smarter than we were at their age. So when you interact with them, and I do interact with some college students or some other students, and I go to the police academies and talk to young probationers on professional topics, the kind of awareness they have, the kind of abilities they have, the kind of probing questions they ask, that keeps you on your toes. So, and that is one area I would definitely like to keep myself invested in, that I would like to do something where I would constantly interact with young people and engage in conversation with them, rather than I am least interested in having a monologue or delivering a lecture or a dialogue to them. I am interested in having a conversation with them. So back and forth of conversation, definitely, because I will learn much more than they will learn from me. So these are some of the things I plan to do. Rest, who knows what happens.
But I would think, and our audience would think, that you would be an amazing motivational speaker if you are already.
I would call myself more of a demotivational speaker because I would not like to motivate them into traditional way of staying positive and doing this thing and that mantra or read this book or anything. Do your own thing. You may succeed, you may fail.
Because your perspective comes from actually varied experiences and also in depth. It's not superficial, like a lot of people have superficial experiences of things and they think they know everything about everything. So I think your learning as a police officer, as a sports person, and whatever you've done in life has been very in depth. So there is nothing superficial about it. You would be an amazing, and you are already an amazing speaker. It was a wonderful conversation. And I hope in My City Links we can call you again with a live audience here where you can actually speak.
That would be really wonderful.
And I'm sure this edition of our Change Leaders will go out across the globe and people from Bhubaneswar and Odisha, obviously, and it will be inspiring enough and motivating enough for people to get back to us and say, yes, again, we have got somebody who has actually spoken from your heart, and you're really touched on a lot of things. I mean, there will be so many other things which you can talk about, but I think that should come out in your autobiography.
I don't plan to write any autobiography, but
You got your second innings on.
Second innings is there. I think somebody else. I will never write an autobiography.
Biography.
I don't think I am important enough to have somebody writing about me. I am just the simple person. The world will not miss me when I am gone, or even if I am here. The only thing, my children actually keep on pulling my leg, and they would actually tell me that my alternative career would have been as a stand-up comic.
Oh,
I keep on pulling their legs, and I come from Amritsar, which is famous for the stand-up comics.
yeah, exactly.
The comedy and that kind of activity, humor, that's in our blood.
Comes naturally.
Comes naturally to me. So my children and my family suffer the most from it, but they keep me grounded.
I mean, today's discussion obviously has been on a more of a serious note, but I think next time we meet, we can have a live audience and we can touch on the humorous side of serious things.
That would be really wonderful if it happens. And I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to listen to my rants,
Absolutely.
random rants.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.